Welcome to the Sci-Fi Guys. I am your host, Dave. And actually, we're going to be talking about something different. We are science fiction guys, but we're not talking about a science fiction movie today. We are talking about Die Hard. Yeah, the best Christmas movie out there ever. All right. And with me is my buddies, Chad and John. And that is a weird setup. Hey, there it is. Hey, wrong button. So, guys, how you doing today?
Good.
Doing great. I was a little worried, Dave. I'm not going to lie. I thought you had missed the record button again because you called it a little into the song playing, and I was like, oh no, here we go again.
No, I did a little bit. It was because I don't know, but it's been a long day, tired. So if it was off a little bit, it's okay. It's
Oh,
it,
yeah,
it's
that's
it's.
fine. I was ready to jump in this time. My eyes were ready.
So anyway, as I mentioned earlier in our intro, we are talking about Die Hard, the best Christmas movie ever. Um, a lot of people complain about that and argue about it, but even according to 20th Century Fox, they said this is the best Christmas movie ever. So, John, this is your first time seeing it. What did you think of the movie, and is it a Christmas movie?
Honestly, pretty fantastic overall. I think it's one of the better action films I've watched, and I can definitely see where some modern films take some liberty with some parts of the story, but then again, a lot of times action movies are just action movies, and that just is what it is. In terms of the Christmas movie aspect, after watching it, number one, I get where the argument comes from, but number two, it takes place during the holiday season, and if we count Home Alone, we must count Die Hard because it's kind of like an adult Home Alone. Traps,
E-
bad guys getting
Exactly.
hurt. I mean, kind of the same concept, and it's
Yeah.
around Christmas time.
Yeah.
If Home Alone is a Christmas movie, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. That's the way I look at it. I agree totally.
Yeah, I can fully accept that now. I can fully accept that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Chad said, I think it was last week when you were having a lot of your issues with your modem, and Chad was like, hey, because I said so next week or the next episode, whenever the case you guys want you out there in YouTube land, watch this. We are doing our top five and our bottom five, meaning our top five movies for this year that we've watched. So we've watched 22 movies, and the bottom five. However, I don't think Die Hard should be counted as one of those because obviously it would be in my top five, but I don't know if that's up to the two of you if you guys want to both give a thumbs up or if it's like this, whatever. But you do have
I
to,
mean, in terms of great movies, it would definitely make the top 5. I just
Yeah.
wouldn't count it sci-fi at all.
yeah, that's why I said it's not really a sci-fi. This is kind of a special. That's why we're all wearing Christmas outfits. I mean, I've got my Hawaiian shirt with Santa Claus surfing. We've got Darth Vader. We've got Elf. We got a little bit of everything on here with our with our with we're doing our Christmas show with Die Hard for y'all. Um, so with that, we actually wanted to do something a little different this time. We just picked different characters and just kind of see what we would thought about it. Was there anything better that you think we could have done? Any tweaks to the movie? This was not a perfect movie. There was, if you actually go and you Google it and you look up movie mistakes, there was tons of movie mistakes for this one. I mean, there was one point where they broke the same window twice when they were shooting the RPG at the RV. They broke the same window twice. So and there was a couple times where you could see cameras in the actual screen. Like the screen was looking this way, and then there was a camera like back over here or something. You could actually see it in there. Um, the biggest question of all: what happened to the orchestra? You never saw them again after they were playing at the beginning of the movie. They were playing great, and then they disappeared
Yeah.
because you didn't see them running up to the roof, and you didn't see them anywhere else. They just disappeared. You know?
They were in on
Again,
it.
yeah, there was a lot of plot holes, and it just if you dig deep into it, you could really pick the movie apart because I mean there was a lot of stuff that went on, like Bruce Willis was not the first person they wanted to do this because at the time, remember, well, I don't know if you guys, I don't want to say remember it was my time, but it's not for some of y'all. He was a TV show star. He was the comic relief in Moonlighting. You had Sybil Shepherd, who was basically the main character, and then he was kind of the sidekick, sort of. And it just happened to be Sybil Shepherd was pregnant at the time when this movie was being filmed. So he was able to actually take, I think it was 11 or 12 weeks, and actually do the film. Um, so, and a lot of the stuff they did, they found out about John McClane as they were filming. They were like, because from the book, they actually changed it quite a bit. The book, they were terrorists. They weren't just bank robbers. And I forget the name of the book it was based off of. It was not called Die Hard.
No.
Anything else. But anyway, so I'm going to start with John. John, you had the villain. You had
Yes.
Hans Gruber. So
Hans.
He had an
I'm going to just say, go at it. Tell me what you thought. Tell me, was there anybody else that could play that part if they were to reboot it? Um, you know,
Oh
was
yeah, I got you.
tweaks that you
I
could have
got you
thought?
covered.
Let's just go with it.
I mean, overall as a villain, I think I appreciated Hans quite well. Um, my biggest complaint, I think, was like he got a little too attached to John McClane. And I get the attachment, like villain to hero kind of idea. I think that happens a lot in cinema, but I think he got a little too attached, especially towards the end, and it just became like way too personal when you're trying to steal $60 million. Like, why are you worried about this one guy? I feel like he could have been taken on quite sooner. I think finished a lot sooner because one guy versus a bunch of terrorists. I really don't think John McClane kind of stood that chance, which we can talk about later as well. But I think Hans got a little too attached at worrying about him. Overall, I do think the actor that played Hans carried the way I would say it carried the power well. You could tell he was rich, he was there, he was powerful, he had power. You could tell he was in charge. And I think that part went quite well. But again, I think almost slightly comedic as a villain at times. But I think it could go either way on that sense. In terms of modern actors who could play that role, I think Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad, as well as more recently Mando, I think he would made an excellent
Pascal.
kind of similar
Yeah.
kind of villain. Yeah. I think he could have. I think he could still, if they made this movie again, I think he can knock the role out exponentially as a power villain. Because I think the dynamic's definitely there. I think they set up the character well. Again, I think it just fell kind of short at times in terms of, like, at times he was too attached to John, and then at times it's like, well, I'm just going to let go of all this power and just kind of do my own thing. And clearly it played against him in the film, and I get the point of carrying the storyline in that way, but overall I think that's kind of where it fell short.
Okay, Chad. Well, first of all, before we get to Chad, the actor who actually played Hans Gruber, this was his first movie that he was actually in, and he was afraid that he was going to be portrayed as an evil villain from then on.
I mean,
I
it
think
happens
he
all
was
the
an
time.
evil villain, and from then on,
Yeah, you look at it. He was in what the first night. He was the bad night.
yeah.
Man in tights. He was John, little John.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I didn't even know that. I didn't even look up to see the stuff he was in.
Well, the thing is, I watched all this, and he's a good actor, hands
Mhm.
down. Now, when he does have a chance not to be a villain, you can't see him being a nice guy.
True. Sometimes you do see people, and they're kind of that stereotype where they do fit a certain role. I mean, look at Jim Carrey. Could you see Jim Carrey as anything but a comedic actor? You know, I cannot. I mean, I think one of his best movies was Liar Liar, where he actually was somewhat normal, but it still was. Yeah. So anyway, Chad, who did you have? You had Hal, the police officer.
Yeah, I had Al, the Family Times, the Family Guy.
Family Ties. Yeah, he was. And for those of you that don't know, he was the same police
Yes,
officer
sir.
in Family Matters.
Yeah.
So with Steve Urkel, Steve
Yeah,
Urkel's
Carl
next door
Winslow.
neighbor, Carl Winslow. You know, and
But the
I
thing is,
almost. I was thinking, I was like, man, I should get a picture of him in this uniform and one with in
it,
Carl.
all it was is it took the patch off here and put a Chicago patch on.
I think so. I really do.
But the thing is, I he played a good part. And maybe I would have done a little bit more interaction with him and John, getting to know each other. Because at the end, they looked at each other like they knew each other like by talking. The backstory of them constantly having a talk, and I wouldn't gave up the. If I was him, I wouldn't gave up to the FBI. Here, hand the radio over to the FBI. I'd be like, no, I got. I want to talk to Al. Get off the get off the mic, or you don't have my help. But it set him up good for the Family Matters show. Even even this carried into Die Hard 2. If you remember, he calls him up, like, "Hey, are you eating a Twinkie?" You remember at the beginning of the movie, he was buying all those Twinkies at a convenience store. Now I set up cops. Oh, I'm going to a convenience store get donuts. The cop guys like, "Hey, I thought y'all eat donuts." This is for my wife, but I wouldn't change that to her because he played a good role. Now I can't think of anybody that can, or if he, not on the top of my head, not to make it. I don't think they can reboot Al. If he can, you have to find somebody close to his statue and his acting. I don't know how to say it, but
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. His what is it? Paralysis or not
yeah,
paralysis? Yeah. Uh, the only drawback I saw with Reginald, that was his real name, Reginald. I
uh,
can't think of
love her.
Laverne. Anyway,
Don't.
the only part of his whole part that I didn't care for was it seemed like when he got to the point where he started talking about when he shot the kid, it seemed like, yeah, I shot a
Yeah,
kid. I mean, and then he started to get serious about a little bit more serious about
yeah.
it. You know, to me that would have been a somber. Immediately, yeah, I'm not driving because I took a
Yeah.
life of a kid. I mean, if to me that would have been immediate rather than kind of the humorous way they started to, then they brought it down.
It's Reginald Val Johnson.
Val Johnson, that's right, and actually, I did read that both the FBI guys were named Johnson after him as a joke. Where he's like Special Agent Johnson and Johnson, no relation. They were
I
actually
was like
doing it
Johnson and
for him.
Johnson. Are we
Yeah,
sure it wasn't subliminal messaging?
maybe it was. I don't know. I don't know. Um, I took two characters. One of them, I mean, and we could all talk about this, was Argyle. I loved Argyle, but he wasn't in the movie enough, and he really was an act. It was the role he was in really wasn't necessary. You know, you could have taken out the whole get into the limo and get. I mean, he could have just been the limo pulled up and then he gets out, and then boom, the movie starts. You know, a lot of that was kind of they used it as the expose to show that John and his wife Holly were having issues, you know. And I think that was the whole thing. There was one part in the movie where you heard him say, "I hope Argyle heard the shots." And there was a part where they originally filmed Argyle coming up to the 30th floor trying to find John because he didn't have a cell phone, and just to make sure everything was going good. And but then they were like, wait a minute, then how could Argyle get down? So they kind of wrote themselves into a back corner. So they said, take that off. We'll leave him saying it. That's when they noticed they cut right away to Argyle in the
Yeah.
doing this inside the limo. So uh, just to give him a little more screen time. But yeah, honestly, I would just take that role out. Um, As for Holly Gennaro, well, first of all, another trivia. As I said, this is not a perfect movie. If you saw him when he typed in Gennaro, it actually spelled it Gennero. But then when you got to her office, it said Gennaro. So it was spelled wrong in one of the two, whichever one it was, and is it was spelled wrong. Uh, actually, my wife and I we watch a TV show, um,
Parenthood.
911,
Oh,
and really enjoy it. And I think Jennifer Love Hewitt would be a perfect person to be Holly Gennaro. Doesn't need to. I mean, it's somebody that's strong, especially after you've seen Die Hard 2, which John you haven't seen yet. After you've seen Die Hard 2, you she would fill that role so perfectly if they were to reboot it.
yeah.
But I really hope they don't. I mean, too many times they reboot
Mm-mm.
movies and they're not good. I don't honestly. I mean, can you guys even think of a decent reboot movie that they've done that's been good? You know, they did Total Recall. It wasn't good. They did Predator. It wasn't good. They did, you know, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head some of the other ones. Um,
They started redoing some Star Trek movies, but
yeah, even that. Yeah, I mean that.
well, yeah. You
You
got to
know,
look. You got to look at it. They redid Star Trek to get to bring people back into the sci-fi era and film to watch, and their reboot series is ugh, nothing against Chris Pine, but I don't think they should have done that. They should have done a TV series or something.
well, like they're doing with Strange New Worlds right now.
Yeah,
They're taking some of the names of the iconic people and they're putting them in a different time. Heck, they've even got Jim Kirk in there, a different actor doing it, but it's the way they're doing it. It makes a lot of sense. I mean,
yeah.
that's good TV. It really is. Strange New Worlds is very good TV. I mean, you know, I don't I some of the things if you wanted to go by the original timeline and all this, okay, there's some
Mm,
stuff that doesn't really make sense in there, but I can understand why they did it. You know, but
yeah. No,
but as for reboots, no, no. No, I don't think there's a decent one out there that I know of.
Not that I've seen yet. Mm-mm.
No. Okay, John McClane.
mm,
We all got to talk about John. Love the guy to death. I mean, uh,
but you got to look. John McClane was the look at the different type of cop. You had John McClane from New York, cop. You had Al, the Los Angeles, the LA cop. One was behind the desk. I'm here, but John was like, "Yeah, thanks for the advice. For looking
yeah,
at me, I don't follow the rules."
yeah. For those of you that have just started watching this and haven't seen the movie yet, it is not family friendly. I will say that. I mean, it one line particular, yippee ki yay. We'll just leave it at that. Actually, made like in the top 10 of all time sayings from any movie ever. So
I
just
mean, it's definitely recognizable. I knew that before I even knew what
yeah,
Die Hard was.
Well, the thing is, they brought that line from a western. That him and Hans was talking about. Oh, I love western movies. No, they didn't love it. Those dudes just quoted it. Say, hey, yippee ki yay!
yeah, yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. Some of the, hey, Gary, no, it's Gary Cooper, you idiot. Some of that stuff with like John Wayne goes off with Doris Dane or whatever he said. Oh, and then he's like, no, that's Gary Cooper. You could tell one really was into the westerns and the other one was not. Uh, but yeah, no, John McClane. Okay, so he was a cop. Okay, first of all, obviously in 2023, a police officer would not be allowed to carry a gun on an aircraft.
No.
That's just not allowed anymore. I mean, he could have it checked in and all that. I mean, that's just, it's the time we live in now. Even though he's a police officer, it's still not allowed. Um, I, I've talked enough. Y'all talk. Okay, tell me. I mean, what y'all think, John? I mean, as an action hero who's not Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone. I mean, roughly the same time period,
Oh
but he
yeah.
wasn't the big, bulky, muscles out your earlobes type person. You
No,
know,
No.
but he gives good, almost anti-hero vibes. Like he's not quite on that realm. Like he's not a vigilante at all. He's clearly a cop and all of that in his background. But like he's just so rugged. It's almost the same as anti-hero to me. Kind of gives the same vibes as John Wick, and
Mm,
those and Keanu Reeves in those films. Like it kind of carries that same general feeling. Like he doesn't need to be a big, huge, muscly guy because like he's just rough and he can shoot. Like he has good aim. That's all he's got. Like he's gonna survive and he's just gonna shoot his way out. He's okay. And so I think that sort of idea. I don't really think he needed the big brawny style, and I think it worked well, especially with old Brucey Buddy.
yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
I I don't think you need a big. I agree. No muscle guys would need to play McLean. How would they fit in the air duct? Look at you see all this. I'm
Okay,
smart.
how many air ducts are that big either? I mean, I know it's a 30-story, 40-story building, or
He
whatever,
ain't
but
gonna be that big.
Yeah, just be my back instead of I'll
yeah.
be back.
So thing is, Bruce Willis did a great job even coming from a TV series to this. But if they had to go to someone else or try to find somebody that mannerisms, close second would probably be Harrison Ford or somebody in that line where it was just very skinny and not too muscular. But you had Harrison Ford doing a lot of Indiana Jones at the time, so
Right. No, I mean, if you were to reboot it now, I would.
I
Okay,
was
he plays a police officer
yeah
in New York.
yeah
Donnie Wahlberg.
yeah that's what I said Wahlberg or
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Wahlberg,
fair.
I think would do well. And then the other one, I think it would. I, if you could clean him up a little bit, I would say Tori Higginson. Loki. I think
yeah
he would be really. I mean, just because he's not a huge muscular. Not everyone is
Oh,
like.
see, I had Tom pegged as a villain as well. Like I could have put him as Hans too.
You
Tom
could.
Holland.
But I
Well,
do
that
agree
just
with
shows
his.
you.
What
Yeah,
But I
go ahead.
do
about
agree with the stature of him would work well in terms of John McClane.
Yeah, I mean, but well, that just shows you what kind of actor he is. He could play villains and he can play good guys. Although you
what
don't
about
see him in too many good guy stuff. I mean, he seems mostly a villain, but you don't want to typecast those people all the time in the
oh,
same way.
you can see Tom Hardy
Ooh,
Venom.
that's a good one.
Hmm.
Honestly, in that same role, I mean, you could definitely see Ryan Reynolds. I feel like
Yeah,
kind of that scrawnier,
Deadpool.
hardcore vibe.
I
I
I'm not
think he'd
sure.
bring a
I'm not sure
different.
Ryan Reynolds would be fair. I mean,
He'd bring a comedic value to it
Yeah.
more
he
so than the
would
the ruggedness.
if you wanted to kind of make it a little bit more comedic. I could see that. But to me, they should do something like that towards the police officer, kind of keep them, the pal, as he called him, yeah, pal,
Yeah.
the whole time,
That's true. That's
as
true.
as the as the comedic, to kind of keep him level headed. I mean, I remember the line where he says, okay, well, she left here and she was out here. I've got 6 months backlog of people I'm trying to get put in jail. I can't just leave. you know So, I mean, you could tell he lives and breathes police.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Which in that same vein too, though, I could honestly see a Hemsworth brother being a McLean.
yeah,
Like Chris is almost too bulky, but he
Chris
does
is
play
too
plenty of
bulky.
roles where he slims down. But Liam, I definitely think could handle it.
Yeah, I can see that. But I would definitely. You're right about Thor. He's just nah,
Too bulk. Too
especially with
bulk.
those long glowing locks. They would just,
Well, Chris has gone short hair and it
He
works.
has gone short. I mean, oh, speaking of which, you guys talked. We talked earlier about reboots, and they did the Red Dawn reboot.
Mm.
Um, that was with Chris Hemsworth, and it was horrible. You know, and it was like filmed like before any of the Avengers stuff, but they sat on it for like 3 or 4 years, and then they decided to release it, and then you're just like, oh, this is horrible. This acting is bad. Just ugh. Anyway, yeah. Well, everyone out there that's listening to us, we have an email that you can email us at. It's these sci-fi guys at gmail.com. I know today is not about a sci-fi show, but we primarily do sci-fi shows. Or you can reach us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now, at these sci-fi guys. And what do I have on this one? Oh, hey. Oh, that's something new. I didn't even know I had that. Anyway, yeah, see, you get to push buttons and have all kinds of fun. So our next episode is going to be, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do our top 5 movies for this year. Die Hard's not included. And we're going to do our bottom 5 movies. And we're going to look at things like, okay, for the time it was filmed, all right, did was it lighting? Was it, storyline? Was it, you know you don't want to just compare, oh, all this science fiction cool graphics, like Gravity, and we did do Gravity, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Interstellar, or things like that. We also did like Buckaroo Banzai and Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So you have to look at both sides of it. You can't just say it's all just special effects. It's okay, what was the story? What was, you know I mean, rewatchability. I think that's one of the big things. Rewatchability. I mean, would you see the movie again? Obviously, this particular movie that we just finished is one of my favorites, and I watch it just about every year. So it's one of my Christmas movies that I love to watch. So uh, that's why, again, it's not in our top 5. So yeah, so we did, what I say, 22 movies, guys. Is that what I
Yeah.
said?
22.
I think so, yeah.
I am sorry. I am wrong. We actually did 28 movies
Mm,
because we did Back to the Future trilogy as one video, but
yeah.
it's actually 1, 2, 3 movies. So those are all need to be counted in there. So we actually did 28 movies this year because we did not start in January. We started later on. Uh, and anyway, I think that's all we got. Guys, got anything else? Any parting thoughts before we get out of here? Nope. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. All right, everybody. Well, yippee ki yay!